Hey, welcome to week 2. So I'm going to do things a little differently in this video. I'm not going to go give a big in-depth detail about what we're actually doing this week. I'll give you a short, brief overview. But there's lots of videos, there's lots of instruction. You don't need me to say all that over again, right? I do want to give you some tips and tricks, however. But let's start with the overview first, all right? So this is a really interesting week. Of course, I think all weeks are interesting, but last week you started off by creating a LinkedIn profile. Some people already had one, which is really good. Some people have never done it before, which is also really good. And so either case, most people got their link to me. This week, however, we're going to start building networks. And even if you already have a page, there's always room to grow. Like I've had a LinkedIn profile for a really long time, and I just added somebody new today. Like I'm always adding people, but I don't randomly add people. Even if they send me a request, I don't randomly add them. I add people that I think are going to add value to my experience on LinkedIn. So they're saying interesting things, or they're doing interesting things, or they're connected to people I already know in some manner. So build your network intentionally. And there's some resources this week that will help you do that. You're going to start off by adding people on your team. We'll talk about the team thing in just a minute because you got to start somewhere. So there's a page that has all the links to your team people. Like I said, we'll get there in a minute. However, go beyond that. You don't want just people in the class because they may or may not know anything more than you know. And so part of the interesting thing of social media is learning things you didn't already know or coming across ideas that you hadn't already considered. There's like I follow a lot of education people, and there's some really cool stuff happening in my networks right now. Like every day I log in and I see something new and I either share about it, not every single day, but I'll share about it or I'll make another comment on their post or something. And you'll probably see that because you're following me also when you added your network. So we're going to do building networks. The other thing we're going to look at is digital discernment. And that's just a really fancy word for fake news. Well, it's a way to deal with fake news. And fake news is in the last several years has become a real buzzword, right? If you don't agree with it, it's fake news. That's not necessarily true. There's lots of room for disagreement, and not everything you don't agree with is fake. And so, but a lot of things you might think are true are fake. And so, in the unit this week, especially in the PK original video, you're going to want to pay close attention because it's going to give you some tips and some strategies for how do you identify this stuff and where does it come from and what do you do about it? I'll give you a hint. Part of that's building a good network. If you build a good, reliable network, they tend to post good, reliable information. But I think you'll find this really interesting. And there's a little game called Spot the Troll. And most people are really surprised about the results of that game. So that's our second thing. And then we're going to keep moving ahead on the Reliable Sources Project. So the Reliable Sources Project, remember, is to help you build skills and strategies to research using good information. That's kind of the heart of it, okay? Because you're in college, you're in the world, there's lots of information that comes at you all the time, and you need some skills and strategies for how to determine, like, is that reliable? Is it real? Is it something I can use? And if it is, how do I use it? That's what this project's all about. So this week, there's actually two parts to the project. The first part has to do with building your criteria list. And so part 2 of the assignment, you're going to come up by the end of that with a list of 5 to 8 criteria. The author has to be one, but you can't use accuracy or currency. Okay. So you have to include the author, but you can't use accuracy and you can't use currency. Mostly because accuracy, like if you're reading an article on quantum physics, you probably don't have the background. Like I don't have the background, and I'm married to a physicist. I could read that and it's got a bunch of fancy words. I'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds good. That might be accurate. But I don't really know without a lot of extra research. So we're not going to use accuracy for this one. And currency, that's too easy, right? It has to be within the last 2 years. And so you can say, yes, it's current or no, it's not. So that doesn't really give you any room to evaluate. But you'll come up with the author and a couple of other things that I think you'll end up finding very useful. That's part 2. Part 3 will have you start building, you're going to start scanning for articles that have to do with whatever your topic is. That means you got to have your topic. So give me a couple of days to go through all the topics that were submitted, and I'll message back to you on your Discord notes channel what your topic will be. I might ask you some questions. We might have a little bit of a discussion. So pay attention to what happens on your notes channel, because you need that topic before you can move forward into the rest of the project. So that's what we've got going on this week. But I promised you that I'd give you some tips and some strategies. So earlier in the week, there was a catastrophic failure at the college. It wasn't really a failure. What happened? And if you're watching this in future semesters, this happens all the time, right? Like you go to access something and it's just not there. What do you do? So in this case, nobody could access Moodle. I went to bed early on Friday night, woke up Saturday morning to like tons of messages about, oh my gosh, Moodle's down, what's going on? Moodle wasn't actually down. The college internet wasn't blocked, but for all practical purposes, we couldn't get through to the college resources. And it wasn't just Moodle, it was several other things that were blocked off. And the IT guys became aware of it and they fixed it. They did what they needed to do. So that was really good. But you should always have a plan B. And in this case, plan B was Discord. So I'm going to do a screen share and show you if something comes up and you don't know, like you can't access something, your first line of defense, and a lot of people did this, is to go to the Discord help desk and say, hey, I couldn't get into Navigate, or, all these things were happening. So this is what I woke up to, is a whole bunch of messages, which was fantastic, because how would I know, right? Unless people told me. There's a lot of messages. And so what I did is I posted, I said, okay, I'm going to see what I can find out just to let you know. So this way you don't have to panic. If you see something here, you can rule out that it's a problem on your end. It's not your internet or your computer. Sometimes it is, but in this case, it definitely wasn't. And so just come down, and then I posted an update. There's an IT service alert from the chief information officer. He was like, okay, this is a problem. We're working on it. People were still posting, which is good. And then let's see. And then I came down. I think I posted somewhere else. Oh yeah, it's reverted back to the stable configuration. So that's really good. And just to point out, it's not always big stuff like that. Bailey posted that this video is unavailable. It was available when I looked at it last week, while I was prepping, but now it's not available. So fortunately, I had a copy of the video and I was able to fix that. So let me know if things don't work. Anyhow, so go to the help desk or post to the help desk. But before you post, look to see if anybody else, like somebody else might have posted and there might be an answer. The other thing is when I find out about stuff like that, I'll post to the announcements channel. Now, the big problem is you guys had work to do, right? And Moodle, not being able to access Moodle, left a lot of people sort of dead in the water. And so what I did is I took our week 2 assignments, and this was really early in the morning. Let's see, 6:30 in the morning. So, as I found out that stuff was happening, I thought, what could I do to help them out? Excuse me. So most of our resources aren't actually in Moodle. They're on a Google Doc, they're in a YouTube video, they're in Discord, just for times like this. This is one of the reasons I do that, is because if you have all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, you know how that saying goes, right? All your eggs in one basket, you drop the basket, everything's broke. So in this case, we kept moving on. So I took week 1A and week 1B checklists, and I added in all the links you needed to complete the assignments. And so if you checked the help desk and if you checked the announcement channel, you would have had everything you needed to know what the problem was, what was happening with the problem, and how to work around the problem. So those are that's my big things. Always have a plan B, okay? Don't panic. check out the resources, see what you can find. That's a good strategy. So that leads me to the next question, because I've had a few people ask me, like, so how are all these things connected? Where's the main website? Moodle is the main website for our class. And so let me switch the screen share around here. So Moodle is the main hub, okay? That's where everything lives. It all lives in Moodle. So, you come to a module for the week. It's got all the things you need. Everything is here, including the most important thing, the checklist. So I would keep them both open. Like have a window, keep them both open, because then you can just go back and forth and you can say, okay, well, I watched that video, and I watched this resource and I did that thing, but I started this. Like you make your own copy, you can keep track. And then if you keep these two things open, you can work back and forth between them. And then Discord is our communication hub. So that's actually where you're going to find all the announcements, messages from the professor on your notes channel. The very first message, if you scroll back to the top, tells you how to manage what you see here. So you can turn off some things, you can hide some things. They don't go away. You can get back to them. For example, I read all the help desk messages. Well, it's not gone, it's still there. I just don't have to see it. And if there's a new message, a little link will pop up and I'll be able to see it. So what you should see here is your team channels. You won't see all three of them, but you will see yours. And I did that on purpose because you don't need that visual clutter either. So Moodle's the hub, Discord's communication channel, and then we've got the resources. LinkedIn is sort of our networking space. And then we've got all the resources like Google Drive and YouTube and GCF Learn, and those are all tied in to Moodle. You'll find links to those all on Moodle and on the checklist as needed. So let's talk about Teams for a minute. What is this team thing all about? I'll keep it here for a minute. So this is not a group project. Don't freak out. Don't panic. As a matter of fact, if you go to your team channel, the very first message says, don't panic. This is not a group project. We have about 30 people in the class, and we have some things that are starting to happen where I want you to look at what other people have done and give feedback. Well, giving feedback to 29 other people is a lot of work. So we have 3 groups. Each group has 10 or 11 people. That you can manage. That's more manageable. And so read through this. This tells you we definitely want to respond in threads. For example, I put the introduction video. I want you to post your introduction video. So I made a post on each team that said, take a moment, and I created a thread, and here's the thread, and you just click on the thread and you post your thing. So I'm going to post another one this week for the week 3 issues in social media. Same thing. You're going to click on the thread, and that's where you're going to make your post. What that does is that keeps our channels nice and organized, because otherwise you might post a video and somebody else will post a chat, and then things go back and forth and it's hard to keep track. So whenever I say post on a thread, make sure that you do that. And this is the little thread icon. If there's not already a thread, you can make one. Super easy. So that's our team thing. Now, let me jump over to the last tip is grading. Okay. So I've talked about doing plan B. I've talked about how these things are all connected. I've talked about the teams. Now's my least favorite part, grading. I really don't like grading. Well, I don't like grading mostly because it makes students nervous, but it is a good feedback tool. So I can't show you exactly where to go because I'm not a student and I don't want to show you the entire gradebook, even though I'm logged in as a student. However, in Moodle, up by your name, if you click on the grade, it's going to show you a list of classes. Now you'll probably only see this class. Okay. When you click on that link, and that's the part I can't show you because if I click on that link, what it will do is it'll give you everybody. So we're not going to do that. Now, when you click on the link for the class, it'll show you everything that's available right now, plus my feedback. So as I've been putting in points for different things, you probably got an email from Moodle. And if you didn't, check your spam folder, because you should have a couple of them. Check your spam folder. Make sure that you mark it as not spam. so that you can see it. Anyhow, I'll put feedback on there that'll be helpful to you. Sometimes it'll be a little poke. It'll say, hey, you didn't get this in. If you don't get this in, I can't do anything, so you get a 0. If you get it in, then I can update the grade. Sometimes it'll be suggestions like, hey, you turned in the PDF, but you didn't share the document. Sometimes it'll be like, thanks for getting it in. Like I try to do that even before I grade it, just so you know that I have everything. So the gradebook is a good tool to help you stay on track and understand, what I've seen and what you've turned in. All right. So let me stop sharing. Let me just encourage you this week. Again, we've got, just a whole lot of stuff going on. Like always, this is going to be a busy class. But this week we're building networks. We're looking at fake news, which is actually a really fun topic. We're jumping into the reliable sources even deeper. We're getting a rhythm. And now you have some strategies for how to use Plan B, where to check Discord if something goes down, how to stay connected and how these things are all connected together, what your team thing is all about, and where to find your grades. So I think that's probably enough information for right now. You have a really good week and make use of that schedule. If you need to if you need to plan another 15-minute time block with me or even longer, that's absolutely fine. Go look at the schedule, select a time, and we'll meet up. Have a really good week.